All right, rugby fanatics, welcome back to Rugby Obsession. If you're as obsessed with this sport as we are, well, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our deep dives. Now, we've been getting a ton of questions, a ton of articles sent our way, a lot of buzz about these upcoming rule changes
Yeah.
and technology changes, really.
Yeah.
Coming to the Six Nations and under 20 championships,
Mm-hmm.
2025, big year. So we figured, all right, let's tackle this head on. Let's do a deep dive.
Let's do it.
Figure out, what does it all mean? What's it going to mean for the future of rugby?
It seems like World Rugby is really building on some momentum from those year-end test matches in 2024.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, they're not just sort of tweaking the rule book, right? They're really trying to change the whole viewing experience.
Yeah, you're right. And one of the biggest changes that we saw, kind of carried over from those test matches, was referees explaining their decisions.
Yeah.
Live, like real time to the fans. And I know some of the, some of the traditionalists maybe weren't too crazy about that.
Sure.
But it seems like the fans seem to like it. They liked getting that little insider perspective.
It adds, I think, it adds a layer of transparency to the game, you know? And think about all those times, right, where you're screaming at the TV, like, what was that call?
Totally.
Yeah. Now you might actually understand, the ref's reasoning. And maybe even a little bit more respect for the officials.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less grumbling from the stands,
Right. Makes you think maybe they should give the commentators a mute button during those explanations. But speaking of technology changing the game, we got to talk about Touchfinder. I mean, this sounds like something out of a spy movie.
Well, it is a bit kind of futuristic sounding, isn't it? It's an evolution of that smart ball technology they've been testing. And basically what it means is the ball itself can help the referee determine where the ball crossed the touchline.
So like precisely.
Yeah, precisely. So think about all those, agonizingly close calls, on those kicks.
Oh, yeah.
Touchfinder could just eliminate those moments completely.
Man, if it works as well as they say it does, it's a total game changer.
It could be.
Less time on replays, more time with the ball in play.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. And speaking of changes, quick reminder to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. Stay up to date on all the latest developments.
Absolutely. Now, let's shift gears a little bit, talk about the laws of the game. World Rugby's approved a whole bunch of new global law trials.
Right.
Set to make their big debut in 2025, Six Nations under 20 championships.
So let's break some of this down. Faster conversions, streamlined lineouts.
Yeah.
Seems like they really want to keep the game moving. Like, what's with the need for speed all of a sudden?
Well, some would say it's about, appealing to a wider audience, maybe a younger audience. A faster pace, fewer stoppages, maybe more in line with the way people consume media today.
Right.
Plus, it could lead to some really thrilling finishes.
Yeah.
With those 60-second conversion attempts. Just imagine the pressure on the kicker.
Yeah. No more just kind of strolling up to the tee, taking your time.
No.
And it's not just conversions. 30 seconds to form a lineout. Restrictions on what players can do around rucks and mauls and scrums. It's all about getting that ball back in play as soon as possible.
It's interesting, though, because some people, they argue that these changes, especially around the rucks and mauls, could make the game less physical.
Yeah, I could see that.
Less of a battle of attrition.
Right.
And we might even see, a shift toward more open play.
Yeah.
With teams trying to avoid those set pieces altogether.
It definitely adds a new kind of dimension to the strategic side of things. Yeah. Coaches are going to have to adapt their game plans. Speaking of adapting, what about those law trials that they kind of decided to kick to touch, so to speak?
Yeah. So one-stop mauls, marks from kickoffs and restarts.
Right.
And 20-minute red card replacements.
Right.
Didn't get the green light for 2025.
Okay.
Though it's interesting, the red card replacement discussion is still ongoing, so they might revisit that one.
Okay.
Down the line.
Lots to unpack there for sure.
Yeah.
Let's kind of rewind a bit and focus on those key law changes. I think it's fascinating that they're putting so much emphasis on timings.
Yeah.
60 seconds for conversions, 30 for lineouts. I mean, they're really serious about speeding this game up.
They are. And think about how that could affect, the outcome of a match, right?
Totally.
A team, they're down by a point or two, scrambling to get that last minute try.
Yeah.
Suddenly that 60-second conversion clock is a huge factor.
Oh, yeah.
Could add a whole new level of drama
Yeah.
and strategy to those final moments.
Absolutely. And those stricter rules around the set pieces,
Right.
those are bound to have an impact on the flow of the game, too.
Yeah. For instance, the new law around rucks.
Yeah.
Players involved in the ruck can't interfere with opponents who are trying to play the ball within a meter.
Okay.
Same principle applies to mauls and scrum halves.
Yeah.
They've got to stay close to that scrum tunnel.
Right.
No more sneaky tactics there.
So it really does seem like they're trying to clean up the game around those set pieces.
Yeah.
Make it less about just kind of wrestling for inches.
Right.
And more about skill and speed. You know what I find really interesting?
What's that?
That change to uncontested lineouts.
Like, what?
Well, if you connect it back to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
right? It's all about keeping that game moving.
Right.
If a lineout isn't thrown straight, but the other team doesn't contest it, why stop play?
Right.
Just keep the ball in motion. It's a radical shift, but it makes sense. So if the opposing team does contest a crooked throw, then they've got the option.
Right.
Scrum or another lineout. But if the throwing team messes up a second time, straight to a scrum. No questions asked.
Makes you wonder if we'll see, more teams opting for scrums.
Yeah.
Even if they might have a better chance of securing the ball from the lineout.
Yeah.
The risk-reward calculation kind of changes a little bit.
It does. It really does. It'll be fascinating to see how teams adapt. And don't forget, folks, you want more in-depth analysis like this? Subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
You won't want to miss our future episodes as these changes start to play out in the real world.
Right.
It's gonna be exciting to see how it all unfolds.
It really is. It's a whole new era of rugby, and I, for one, am here for it. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of rugby. Be sure to tune in to the 2025 Six Nations. You're going to want to witness these changes firsthand.
Yeah, and until next time, keep that rugby passion burning.
That's a wrap for this episode of Rugby Obsession. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to you listening to our next episode.